Dongguan, the world's factory, is collapsing under the devastation of tariffs. Companies are fleeing in droves and workers are being forced to go home, jobless. 180 million jobs are at risk of vanishing as China's foreign trade industry suffocates. People cry out in distress, hoping for the CCP's collapse. Chinese cargo planes are flooding Europe to dump goods as 145% tariffs bite, and China's customs officials warn the situation is grim. The flame of Peng Lifa's revolution reignites. Anti-CCP banner spotted on Chengdu Overpass. Are the Chinese people awakening? A political shock hits China as Shanxi's governor Jin Xiangjun falls, raising questions. Is Xi Jinping's power slipping? Welcome to New Century. I'm Daniel Carter, here to bring you the truth about China. Dongguan, the world's factory, is collapsing under the devastation of tariffs. Companies are fleeing in droves, and workers are being forced to go home, jobless. Let's dive into today's top story, the US-China trade war and its devastating impact. First, we're zooming in on China, where Dongguan, once dubbed the world's factory, is teetering on collapse, hammered by crippling tariffs. Companies are pulling out in droves, and workers are being sent home, jobless. In cities like Dongguan, Foshan, and Shenzhen, factories tied to the US market are hurting the most. These plants, heavily dependent on American orders, are in dire straits. The bosses? They're at their breaking point. Let's take a closer look at what's happening on the ground. One manufacturer cried out, "Oh no, things are getting messy now, really messy. We've been hit hard by this tariff war. The factory is completely demoralized. Look, tons of goods are piled up here, all at a standstill. Not only can we not sell to the US, but other countries aren't buying either." The US-China tariff fight is the talk of the town every day. Right now, all shipments to the US have ground to a halt. Last year, China's domestic market was already a brutal battlefield, with everyone fighting tooth and nail. And now this year, they've dropped this bomb. Do you think everyone will just compete to death domestically, dragging the market down, killing everyone off, including themselves? One insider asked. Over in Guangzhou, there's nothing going on. Villages are packed with idle workers, and bosses are barely hiring. Every day, tens of thousands are jobless, hunting for work. There are tons of people searching, but jobs are scarce. Trump's massive reciprocal tariffs have backed Chinese trade companies into a corner, and they're reeling in pain. Countless cargo ships and flights on China-US routes have been canceled. Exporters are hitting pause left and right. Industry insiders warn that with foreign trade choked off, China's economy is in deep trouble. Factories are shutting down, and unemployment's becoming unbearable. Some are even whispering they hope the Communist Party collapses soon so China can become a normal country. Online videos are popping up everywhere showing the trade wars just getting started, but Chinese businesses and workers are already battered. In Guangdong, factories have lost orders and face closure. Workers are being forced to go home without jobs. One person lamented, "The so-called three carriages of the economy, exports, infrastructure, and consumption, really come down to exports pulling the load. If exports tank, everyone's days get tough. There's no point anymore. It's game over." The port accounts for 70 to 80% of the eyewear industry's total value, a huge share. The US makes up about 30% of that, so the blow is massive. Probably over 70% of goods are on hold right now. The medical equipment we use, like these vascular treatment devices behind me, mostly comes from US manufacturers. If prices rise by 34% and then another 50%, these products could nearly double in cost. In 2024, China's export value hit 25.45 trillion yuan. That's about $3.49 billion, making up roughly 20% of GDP. Foreign trade supports 180 million jobs, from Yiwu's small goods to Huawei's 5G tech. Chinese manufacturing has always leaned hard on exports. A blogger shared, "As a service provider for trade companies and a self-media blogger, I deal with real data on business, markets, and consumption every day. I can tell you straight, consumption's flatlined, and the era of strong demand is over. Look around. Stores are closing, factories are empty, and jobs are tough to find. That's a wake-up call. The US market? It's like China's Grand Canal. Other channels? Small streams at best. Now that we're cut off, guess what happens first? Do the small boats run aground, or do the big ships get stuck? Ms. Huang, who works in foreign trade, told the Epoch Times that Chinese textile factories keep prices low thanks to a 17% government tax rebate, letting them outcompete globally. But a 17% subsidy can't touch a 145% tariff, so many textile plants are closing their doors. Ms. Huang estimates that factories making it past May or June will see at least half go under. She also noted that in April, Zhejiang factories would normally start taking U.S. Christmas orders. But this tariff war has killed that. No orders are coming in. Many American clients aren't just holding off, they're quietly pulling back altogether. This year's U.S.-China trade war has everyone on edge, hitting far beyond seasonal exports to the U.S. It's even tanking the factory rental market. One business owner said, in Hangzhou Bay, 5 yuan, that's about 68 cents, per square meter, and still no one's biting. In this trade war, the Chinese people and the CCP leadership have become bitterly divided. Leaders determined to save face vow to fight to the end, no matter the cost, while the people cry out in distress, some even hoping for the collapse of the Chinese Communist Party. Ms. Huang, a veteran in foreign trade, told the Epoch Times she believes this tariff war has cut off the CCP's last lifeline. Foreign trade was the only thing keeping it afloat. China once leaned on foreign investment and real estate to power its three carriages economy: exports, infrastructure, and consumption. But now, with trade crumbling, the economy's teetering on the edge, thrown back to the 90s, or worse, straight to the Mao era. She says folks in her industry are openly rooting for the CCP to fall fast and cheering for Trump. Talk of a trade decoupling swirls, with some pinning hopes on negotiations between the two leaders. But Ms. Huang's not buying it. Xi Jinping's all about saving face, she says. How could he back down? He'd rather let his people starve to keep up appearances and push forward. One voice in the crowd asked, why does it feel like this tariff war, as it drags on, is entirely targeting us? Even Chinese students abroad are getting caught up in this, and overseas Chinese are wandering aimlessly. Why are Chinese people so unwelcome abroad? Why does the world's shoddy stage always seem to target you, but you never hear about anti-Japanese, anti-Indian, or even anti-African sentiment? All we can do is compete on price, quality, and ourselves. But what we're really competing for is our own survival space. Even if you're as rich as Jack Ma, you might not feel secure in your survival space. That cutthroat competition's tearing things apart from the inside. A long-term lack of a safety net has led many to scoff at the honesty and integrity foreigners value, treating it like a childish joke. How far are we from queuing up to eat grass in this tearful race? They wonder. A netizen from Jiangsu posted online, a wave of foreign trade company closures has kicked off here. Our firms are shutting down en masse. How about yours? Others echoed the sentiment. And Jiangxi netizen chimed in, Jiangxi's clothing companies have all gone on leave, as long as they were dealing with the U.S. U.S. economist David Huang points out that the U.S. is one of China's biggest consumer markets, eating up about a third of its exports. For products like gifts, electronics, hardware accessories, and toys, it's over 90% of demand. When tariffs skyrocket to 145% or even 100%, exporters throw in the towel and shift orders to Mexico, India, or Southeast Asia. Factory closures aren't one-offs. They could set off a domino effect. Coastal areas get hit first, then a second wave of relocations kicks in, bringing layoffs and squeezing local budgets. David Huang warns that mainland China risks turning into an isolated island, losing a huge chunk of the global market. It's left leaning on Belt and Road countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, or the few still trading with it. The catch? China's domestic demand is too weak, and those countries' buying power can't touch the U.S. Analysts say the CCP's retaliatory tariffs and hardline stance are dragging China's economy into the mud. Exports drive China's growth, so if the U.S. slams its doors shut, it's a total disaster. No market out there's big enough to soak up China's excess capacity, and right now, domestic demand's nowhere near filling that gap. All right, let's shift gears to another critical angle on the U.S.-China trade war. Chinese cargo planes are flooding Europe to dump goods as 145% tariffs bite, and China's customs officials warn the situation is grim. The United States has delayed reciprocal tariffs on 75 countries for 90 days, but it's slamming China with a 145% tariff on goods. In response, Chinese exporters are rushing to ship products overseas before those tariffs kick in. This last-minute surge drove up China's export numbers for March. Here's the rundown. On April 14th, China's General Administration of Customs reported that exports to the United States in March rose about 9% compared to last year. Overall, China's total exports that month jumped 12.4% from the same period in 2023. In total trade volume, ASEAN ranked first among China's trading partners, followed by the European Union. Still, the South China Morning Post labeled it a final hurrah. Julian Evans Pritchard, head of China economics at Capital Economics, cautioned, "In the coming months or even quarters, shipment volumes are expected to decline. It could take years for China's exports to return to current levels." With those 145% U.S. tariffs looming, China's General Administration of Customs didn't shy away from the bleak export outlook during a press briefing on the 14th, though they leaned on some political slogans. Spokesperson Lu Daliang said, "At present, China's exports are indeed facing a complex and severe external environment, but the sky is not falling." But China's not just facing trouble with the U.S. French Finance Minister Eric Lombard told BFM TV over the weekend. Every night, around 600 large cargo planes carry Chinese goods from China to Europe, flooding the European market with a massive volume of low-cost products. This has clearly impacted European businesses. In an interview with US France, Lombard added that France would push the European Union to set border quotas to stop the flood of Chinese imports. The sky won't collapse. But a colossal disaster has struck. Chinese netizens pushed back hard against Lu Daliang's claim that the sky is not falling. One wrote online, "The sky may not collapse, but storms will devastate our nation and people." Another said, "The sky's still up, but a massive disaster has struck." Earlier, People's Daily published an article titled "The Sky Won't Fall," which users mocked, saying, "The sky holds, but the earth has split." Dissident Wang Yajin in a YouTube video wore a shirt proclaiming, "If the sky falls, the people will prop it up." According to Caixin, Goldman Sachs' chief China economist Hui Shan warned on April 11th that halting all U.S. exports and related manufacturing investments would slash China's GDP by 3 points. Goldman estimates 10 to 20 million jobs are tied to U.S. trade. This tariff war is spelling doom for China's trade sector. Customs data shows March imports dropped 4.3% year-on-year, while exports surged 12.4%, leading to a trade surplus of $102.64 billion. March was likely China's final export frenzy, with traders hurrying to ship orders before Trump's tariffs took effect. Back then, experts thought tariffs might hit a 60% ceiling. Now, at 145%, Xi Jinping's defiance, urging the nation to eat grass and bark, has only fueled the crisis. As scientist He Zuoxiu once said, "Who told you to be born in China?" The working class is hurting bad. A Shaoqing garment worker lamented, "Tariffs are deadly, bosses are broken. Sell $100 of goods, pay $145 to U.S. Customs. Inventories now rags nobody wants." A Yiwu small business owner groaned, "104% tariffs, how do we survive?" Business has been grim for years. A cross-border e-commerce accountant shared, "My world's crumbling. A year into this job, I'm looking again. Over 70% of our sales are U.S.-based. The boss vanished weeks ago. My last job stiffed me, I fear a repeat." An export packaging worker said, "Inventory's stuck. I owe $30,000 for loans this month. I can't sleep. Tariffs hit us ordinary folks hardest." A vlogger added, "China makes 80% of global plush toys, 43% for the U.S. Tariffs will erase factories." On Douyin and Xiaohongshu, small business owners and workers vent their despair, their eyes radiating hopelessness. Yet CCP media spins stories of prosperity, ignoring the masses. Official outlets blare defiance, tout a thriving economy, and vow to battle the U.S. to the end. The 145% tariffs are crushing China's factory sectors, textiles especially, where the U.S. is the top market. In 2024, textile exports hit $301.13 billion, with $50.96 billion to the U.S., according to industry data. A Guangzhou supplier told Jiemian News that U.S. orders have shrunk since 2024, with prices squeezed. In Panyu's garment hub, 40 to 50% of factories closed in 2 years. Tariffs now threaten total wipeout. Auto parts rely heavily on the U.S., with $9.977 billion exported in 2024, or 15% of the total. The Wall Street Journal notes 40% of U.S. carmakers' parts come from Mexico, often Chinese-owned plants. With profit margins under 15%, Trump's 25% tariffs on steel and parts could cripple them. The U.S. leads China's lithium battery exports. In 2024, battery exports reached 197.1 gigawatt-hours, up 29.2%. Power batteries to the U.S. were $15.32 billion, that's 25%, and storage batteries $2.03 billion, or 23%. Storage exports to the U.S. hit $6.27 billion, 57% of U.S. imports. Tariffs will spike prices, gutting demand. Solar's struggling too. The U.S., China's second-largest market, added 50 gigawatts in 2024. China dodged earlier barriers through Southeast Asia, but U.S. probes in 2024 into Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Thailand froze capacity. Some firms shifted to Indonesia or Laos. Others are eyeing Saudi Arabia or Turkey. Trump's global tariffs make escape unlikely. E-commerce giants Shein and Temu are facing ruin. On February 4th, Trump axed the low-value parcel exemption, slashing Shein's U.S. sales 16 to 41% in 5 days. On April 8th, the U.S. set a 90% tariff on small parcels or raised the $75 fee to $150, effective May 2nd and June 1, a devastating blow. China's economy, already on shaky ground, faces a 2025 nightmare. Xi Jinping boasts, China's economy is a vast sea, not a pond. Storms may flip a pond, but not a sea. But can Cultural Revolution-era slogans pull an economy back from the brink? One blogger put it darkly. Whether the economy survives doesn't matter. What matters is that 1.4 billion people form an iron wall, gnawing on bark, eating clay, chewing roots, and after 3 to 5 years will say, we won again. The flame of Peng Lifa's revolution. Reignites, Anti-CCP banner spotted on Chengdu Overpass. Are the Chinese people awakening? A bold act of defiance is shaking things up in China as the spirit of a rebel known as Peng Lifa lives on. Right in the middle of the U.S.-China tariff war, a new voice has stepped into the spotlight. Sources say that in the early morning hours of April 15th, someone slipped through the shadows and hung 3 striking banners on a pedestrian bridge near Chengdu's Chadianzi bus station. Written in bold red on white, they proclaimed, "No political reform, no national revival. The people don't need an unchecked party. China needs no one to set its path. Democracy is the path." Social media lit up with praise. Users on X called this mystery figure a warrior and another Peng Lifa. Comments flooded in. A new Sitong Bridge. After Peng Zhaizhou and Hunan's Ludi, this is another seismic blow to the Communist Party. Sitong Bridge's flame still burns. China has truth-tellers. Hats off to Chengdu's hero. They can muzzle voices, but not truth. Bravo, warrior. Bet bridge guarding will spark millions of jobs. Let's rewind to Peng Lifa, the man who started it all. Known online as Peng Zhaizhou, he made history on October 13th, 2022, at Beijing's Sitong Bridge. He hung banners and shouted through a megaphone, "No COVID tests, we want food. No cultural revolution, we want reform. No lockdowns, we want freedom. No leader, we want votes. No lies, we want dignity. Not slaves, but citizens." He called for strikes to oust dictator-traitor Xi Jinping. Peng was quickly arrested. On the first anniversary of that protest, October 12, 2023, Voice of America reported, citing Chinese sources, that Peng was being held in a secret location, his family under tight surveillance. By his 50th birthday on January 7, 2024, he was still in covert detention. On October 13, 2023, Congressman Mike Gallagher, chair of the U.S. Congressional Executive Commission on China, nominated Peng for the Nobel Peace Prize. The spark of defiance didn't stop there. In August 2024, another rebel emerged. A young man named Yan Zhongjian from Hebei's Changli County grabbed a megaphone and demanded, "Xi Jinping, step down." In a video he shared that the Communist Party had labeled him a political criminal 3 years earlier, banning him from returning home. He urged people to see the party's true colors. Then, in Hunan on July 30th, 2024, a 22-year-old recent graduate named Fang Yirong took action. He hung Sitong Bridge-style banners on an overpass in Xinhua County, Laodi. His megaphone blared, "We want freedom, democracy, votes. Strike to remove dictator-traitor Xi Jinping." Echoing Peng's words, he swapped "no COVID tests, we want food" for "no privileges, we want equality." Fang said, "Since last July, I've been relentlessly harassed and persecuted by this rotten government. Down with the Communist Party. Down with Xi Jinping." Now, let's turn to another major story grabbing attention. A political shock hits China as Shanxi's governor Jin Xiangjun falls, raising questions. Is Xi Jinping's power slipping? On April 12, 2025, China's top anti-corruption agency dropped a bombshell. Jin Xiangjun is under investigation for serious violations of discipline and law. He's the first sitting provincial governor to go down since the 20th Party Congress and the third ministerial-level official targeted this year. Just 2 days earlier, Jin was chairing an executive meeting, making this move lightning fast and brutal. Jin's career took him through Hunan, Guangxi, and Tianjin. He served as Tianjin's vice mayor in 2018, before landing the governor's seat in Shanxi in 2022. Seen as a key player in Xi Jinping's inner circle, Jin reportedly had ties to Wang Zhongfu, a former state official who once helped Xi's father, Xi Zhongxun, in Shenzhen, earning the Xi family's trust. This downfall is sending shockwaves, striking a blow to Xi's power structure. Jin climbed the ranks through Xi's trusted network, working in Tianjin alongside Xi's ally Li Hongzhong. His rise was tied to the kind of patronage deals common in Xi's system. Since taking charge in 2012, Xi has tightened his hold by purging rivals and boosting loyalists from his Fujian clique and Zhejiang New Army. But Jin's fall shows cracks in that setup, proving even Xi's closest allies aren't untouchable. The timing couldn't be worse. With U.S. tariffs hitting 145% and China's economy reeling, Shanxi's role as a coal-powered energy hub makes stability there critical. Jin pushed coal reforms, but his tenure was dogged by debt and corruption allegations. The charges against him are murky, likely tied to economic crimes or power abuse. Xi's anti-corruption campaign has been relentless, recently tearing into the military, taking down Central Military Commission Vice Chair He Weidong and Political Work Director Miao Hua. Jin's case adds another name to a growing list of top officials brought low, hinting Xi's core power base is crumbling. As a poster child for Xi's faction, Jin's ousting raises a burning question. Can Xi still count on his inner circle's loyalty? Some analysts say Jin's fall might not be Xi's call. It could stem from factional infighting or external pressure. Corruption in the military runs deep. Former defense ministers Li Shangfu and Wei Fengge were already under scrutiny, and the collapse of figures like Miao Hua and He Weidong has rattled Xi's military control. Now that chaos is spilling into regional leadership. Xi's anti-corruption drive, once his weapon to crush dissent, is starting to backfire, exposing his struggle to keep factionalism and loyalty splits in check. Social media's buzzing with chatter calling this Xi's faction collapsing from within. That's a bold take, but it captures growing doubts about Xi's iron grip. With Trump's tariff war hammering China's economy and global pressure piling on, Xi needs unity now more than ever. Yet, losing top allies is shaking the military and public trust. Xi's image as the untouchable leader is fraying fast. He's trying to claw back control with high-profile purges and slogans like "No forbidden zones," but it feels like a distraction from the economic mess. Each new scandal just fuels more doubts about his ability to lead. Xi's power leans on two legs, military control and propaganda, and both are wobbling. If more trusted officials keep falling, Xi's absolute authority could become unsustainable. Worse, a power vacuum might already be forming inside the party, with rivals circling. Jin's fall isn't just one man's tragedy, it's a red flag for structural collapse. Jin Xiangjun's downfall lays bare the instability at the heart of Xi Jinping's rule. As economic woes deepen and threats from abroad grow, Xi's anti-corruption push, meant to lock in power, is unraveling his own foundation. With military and regional leadership in turmoil, Xi's hold on power looks shaky. If this keeps up, factional battles could burst into the open. Even if Xi tries to tighten his grip, economic decline and fading public confidence might box him in. The fallout from Jin's collapse is just beginning, and Xi's path forward is looking perilous. That's all from us at New Century. We hope you found today's stories insightful. Please consider subscribing, joining the discussion in the comments, and coming back for more. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.